Good afternoon, Cairns. I am delighted to be here to share the stories around partnerships and the scale behind partnerships with this esteemed panel. I'm not going to introduce them. They will introduce their fabulous careers, and then we'll get into the discussion. So I'll start off here. Brooke, go ahead.
Hi, well, thank you for having me, Malcolm, and thank you for putting this panel together. I'm happy to be here with some of my friends and also fellow panelists. I'm Brooke Ellis, co-founder of a company called Authentic Intelligence. We're launching here at Cannes, actually, and it's a content experience music platform, and we're bringing new emerging talent to market and helping tell their stories through the form of digital content as well as live experiences.
Linwood, let's hear from you.
How you doing? Thank you. Thanks for having me. Linwood Bibbins, CEO and founder of Reach TV. We're a streaming television network with live sports across 90 airports, 2,400 gates, 950 venues, 500,000 hotel rooms. And we also are launching our own first-party data platform to really follow the traveler in aggregate across their entire journey, from home to everywhere else.
All right, and last but not least, Jonathan.
Yeah, thank you, Malcolm. Jonathan Smith, Chief Financial Officer, Omnicom Media Group, Strategic Investments. So I help incubate some of the new growth products across OMG, working with Outcomes, Creo, which is a new influencer agency, our sports group. Kyle out there is the president of Outcomes. So look at me as like more of looking at your revenue generating product groups across OMG. I work with a lot of different partners here. I work with the different presidents in OMG's North America leadership to make sure that we're creating the best partnerships possible.
Great, great. So I want to give a little plug about a partnership that you will hear about at 4 o'clock. Diageo partnered with a great set of founders and innovators in the spirits industry to create this great initiative called Pronghorn. I'm not going to steal your thunder, but hang around to talk about that. But this is why I think I wanted to talk about this topic. Too many times organizations try to do things themselves and not recognizing the power of partnerships. So Brooke, give us an example of what I just talked about, creating a partnership that creates a great initiative. Can you talk about that for a second?
Yeah, so to start, I didn't say in my intro, but when you talk about the power of partnership and scale, one of my partners is Warner Music Group, and one of the CEOs and chairmen of 300 Entertainment decided to come in to help bring storytelling to life. So more recently, we did a partnership with Sephora with an up-and-coming artist. I don't know if you've heard of Brittany Spencer. She had a feature on Beyonce's new album, her new country album. And so helping put Brittany on a platform with a brand like Sephora that's all over the world, it's a global brand, and using an up-and-coming artist like Brittany, who may have a smaller scale audience, but she's building, right? And so helping her, using her as an avenue to help drive discovery to beauty with new audiences is something that they wouldn't have thought about before. But because we have this pipeline of up-and-coming talent, and they were willing to take a risk on something that's new, something that will help them reach new audiences, and that's how that partnership came to life.
Love that, love that. So Linwood, in your business, you're on screens across the entire North America footprint. How does partnerships help you, and how does it help your partners that are on your platform?
Well, to start, the way to break into the airport was the contracts were already 10-year contracts with other companies. And our goal was, how can we scale and break into this hard-to-get-in place? So we went to the biggest food and beverage operator and took over TV screens in their bars, food and beverage, operating restaurants, retail, everything. And what that allowed us to do is we launched in 3 airports with them and quickly scaled to 62 airports with one big partner that's a $13 billion company. So
wow.
We leveraged their infrastructure to give us scale and created a long-term partnership.
So I want to stick on that because that's a significant jump. What are the talking points that you approach someone with in partnering, and how do you talk about how does that introduce scale?
So for me, partnerships in anything that's scale, you got to do your research first. Number one. Number two, I came in to provide them a solution. So I was trying to provide a win for the partner that also provided a win for me. But I was really keen on finding out what was important to them and could we deliver the things that they were missing. So that's how I approached our partnership, and that's exactly what we did. We turned in their screens that were costing them something. We made them a revenue-generating screen for them and better content. So we provided entertaining, short-form, really cool content, and that turned our relationship into something long-term.
Excellent, excellent. Jonathan, give us an example of your discussions around partnering, and again, more importantly, how does that introduce scale? What are those talking points that you're always often selling?
Yeah, for us, I mean, when you think about it, we're in the business of making sure that we put the best solution in front of clients and brands, right? And I feel like from my lens, coming from a CFO's perspective, I'm dealing a lot with procurement, right? So it's important for me to understand the actual products, the partnerships, understand the cost structures, right? And how we can deliver the best solution to the client that's the most efficient. So in our examples, when I think about, launching an influencer agency, right? Making sure that we have the right partnerships in place to make sure we're identifying the right audiences, making sure that we're looking at diverse creators, providing them with the right opportunity to connect to our brands, right? We think about it from a sports perspective, right? Optimal Sports is another brand that I oversee, right? We talk about like a Reach TV, right? Which is now has sports deals in place in airports, right? So having these type of relationships, having these conversations, it allows me to now come to the table with a different, diverse mindset to introduce new products at the table in partnership that potentially can work on the behalf of our brands and also be a great solution for us.
Great. So I want to stick on that for a second because you are a CFO at a major organization in corporate America. How does the discussion change as it relates to bringing diverse suppliers and partners into your ecosystem? What is that conversation like? What are the existing challenges, and how do we get around them?
I think the conversations are ongoing. I think it comes down to the intentionality, right? You have to be intentional about it. And so for us, it's what's best for the consumer, right? And so if we know there's a product out there, and essentially this is what people are here for at Cannes and at other festivals, to network, to actually get a better understanding of what's out there from a diverse supplier perspective. But yeah, we've put different mechanisms in place to make sure that we have a list of our diverse suppliers that we can make sure we're connecting when the right solutions come in place, right? And also from my perspective, I'm there as a sense of accountability as well, right? So I'm working across the leadership team, making sure that, hey, we're looking at this from all different angles, right?
Linwood, you're running your own business. You're a founder of your own business. So you are, by nature, diverse. When you look at partners, what is the lens that you apply in terms of looking at the current consumers and your current partners? What does that look like?
Well, I think our current partners, we've just figured out how can we provide them service. And then our current agencies, brands, everybody, we look at them the same way. We finally gotten our message down that we want to talk to a traveler, and we want to talk, and they are travelers as well. So we look at how do we talk to everybody across the entire journey, what is important to everybody in those steps. And I think one of the things I want to mention is when 2020 was going through, 2021, Philippe Krakowski, chairman of and CEO of IPG, called me and really sat down and asked, why are we not doing business together? We've been friends for a long time. What are your challenges? And he was genuine about it. And we sat for 2 hours talking. And after that call, what he said to me was really profound, probably for a lot of people here. He's like, I'm the chairman and CEO of a company that does billions upon billions. Don't call me about 200 grand. Come to me about a $20 million idea so I can help you solve it. And sometimes we got to figure out who our audience is and what things we put in front of them. So I immediately put a bigger deal in front of them. And to their credit, they launched the first Black-owned media upfront. And so that was, IPG did a great job on that, of building a solution for a problem I was having. And not just me, but a lot of Black-owned media companies.
So a lot of the folks here are representing large firms. Some are independent contributors. Some run small businesses. If I'm a small business, right, and you're giving some advice to people who are sitting out in the audience around, how do I get to scale? How do I partner with large organizations that I can't necessarily reach? What is the secret sauce? So Brooke, you've been on both sides. Amazon, now you're working at 300, and I know Authentic Intelligence. Talk to the audience about what that challenge is and how do you overcome it?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge is right now we're in a very saturated marketplace, right? You and I have talked about this at length. Currently, there's over 2 billion brands that exist across the world. So with that saturation, it's important to have a very clear positioning and really differentiate yourself from everybody else that's in the marketplace. So I think it starts there. And that's why this immersive storytelling platform that we created helps do that. It helps really create a swim lane for yourself to help stand out from everyone else that's out there. So I think if you have a unique value prop that allows you to really stand out from everyone else. Also, I think there's a page in the book from the music industry that I've taken, which is it's always about being true to who you are. And so anyone who is building a new brand, just getting started in the space, just tell your story. I think your story is more important than anyone else. That's the most unique thing about you.
So the other thing I've been thinking about, too, as we talk about scale and partnerships, is networking. And I think Cannes provides an amazing platform to do that. I'm so thankful for Adrienne and her team for creating the Inkwell here. Give it up for Adrienne, please, for an amazing platform. Go back and tell your communities, tell your corporations that their logos need to get on that wall to support this platform. So what's the importance of networking, and how should people network and tell their story if they want to scale and create partnerships that are meaningful to them? And I'll let you guys, you can take the mic.
I think when it comes down to networking, right, you have to be authentic. And you also have to essentially understand your story, right? What are you selling? What's the value prop? How does it actually benefit and becomes a value proposition within your client solutions? And that's the power. And stay curious as well. It's like that's, from my perspective, that's one of the things I'll always kind of, keep close to heart is the fact that remain curious. Like, listen. Right? When you're networking, listen to people's story, try to understand essentially, what they do, what they're trying to do, see if there's an opportunity for partnership there where you can create scale. And also understand your product, right? Like, have a pitch story, right? And be ready, right? That's my thing. It's like we have these conversations and all of a sudden it's like, hey, you get an email and it's go time, right? You got to deliver, right? Like, these relationships are very sensitive in a way in which you need to nurture them. And when you ask for favors, there's no favors in this space, right? Because people are putting their names down on the line to make sure these opportunities are created. And so the one thing that you can make sure you do in that opportunity is deliver, right?
I love that you touched on that around people are putting their name. So if you know someone and you have that wants access, what is that conversation like when that person approaches you? So I get approached quite a bit, right? I work for a large organization. What is that conversation like around the value proposition that they should be putting forth? Or if you have to tell them no, like what is that conversation like? And then what advice do you give them in terms of correcting the ask that wasn't quite landing where you expected it to land?
I mean, every situation is different, but depending on a conversation, how it comes across, right? I poke holes in it, right? I ask the tough questions. Rather me ask the questions than someone else, right? And so, but in that way, it's still constructive feedback. And say, like, here's, based on what I'm hearing, because I'm hearing different propositions and different, from different conversations. In that moment, here's my feedback. Here's where I think your story's a little loose. Here's where you need to kind of tighten it up a little bit, right? And here's what I think is an opportunity for you to kind of create a little bit more scale or differentiation, right, in that offering. And, provide that. You don't want to be demotivating, right? You want to make sure that people stay inspired, but, you want to also be the person that gives them the honest feedback as well.
Do you want to tackle that question?
No, I was just saying that, like, you also got to look at where the market is going. And you have to do the research and really understand what your capabilities are and what you can and can't do. And then figure out, like, for us, 3 years ago, we decided we're going to become a live sports network. Just said, all right, this is where viewing is going. This is what we have to do. And we were intentional about it, and I was intentional about it. And we secured the NFL. We're the only network that has every NFL game, regular season, playoffs, Super Bowl, and we have it for another 7 years. So we focused on what we wanted to do because we knew that would be of value to Omnicoms and other agencies, also of value to our viewers, our partners. So one thing kind of met everybody's requirements, so we kept focusing on that. So we've added NBA, we've added Live Golf, we've added a bunch of live sports that we know are relevant to our viewers. So we were very intentional about what we do and what we deliver for everybody in that ecosystem. And I think that is, a lot of people come to me all the time, and most of the time they really haven't done the research. They haven't done the work.
So we want to share with the audience some learnings, right? Because we're talking about the power of partnerships and scale. They don't always work. So, Brooke, do you have any insights around, what do you look for that are red flags that this is probably not going to work? This is not the relationship that we're looking for. Do you have any examples? Do you have any advice for the audience around what they should be looking for? What kinds of connections should they be making?
No, I think that's a great question. We had a dinner earlier this week where we brought together C-suite executives to just really get to know one another. And one of the things that stood out is almost everyone in that room said they had not had an opportunity since they've been at Cannes Lions to just connect, right? To share their story, to get to know one another. Everyone's so fast-paced when they're here. And so I think getting back to the core of who you truly are, what your product is, what it is that you're selling, and ensuring that's a connection to who you inherently are, I think is key there. I think that's one of the things that I look for when I'm talking to potential partners, that there's really a true fit. The other thing is, I think about just red flags. If it feels like it's forced, or if it feels like, I think you mentioned it earlier, Linwood, is if it feels like you just don't have the full story together, I don't think it's too late, right? I think it's just working with that individual to help them get there. But those are the two things that I look for, is just being true to what the story is and knowing what your positioning is. And the other, just as you think about red flags, is ensuring that you have all the pieces of the puzzle before you go to partners to ask for that big ask.
Malcolm, can I just add one thing? A lot of times people get seduced by a big company. And I'm going to tell you, as a small business, do not give up your revenue to somebody else unless you are 100% sure that everything you do and they do is aligned.
I love that angle. It's got to be right for you financially. And irrespective of what logo you were talking to, do not give away half your revenue.
Because whoever controls your revenue controls you.
Love that. Love that insight. So, Jonathan, you're on the other side. You're a big corporation. What do you say to someone who's a small business in that regard?
As far as what? Whoever owns your revenue owns you?
You're a CFO, so revenue is important to you.
Now, revenue is important, but I mean, I think, on both sides, right? You're on a client side, so it's like, everybody in that whole value chain, right, is looking for the best value for themselves, right? We're getting negotiated by procurement, right? And essentially, we need to make sure we put the best partnerships in place and cost structure in place so we make money. It's the business of making money, but also too, I'm a big fan. It's important, the fact that it has to be equitable for everybody, right? If it's not a vested interest in all parties with some type of upside tied to success, then are you going to get the best talent assigned to your business? Are you going to get the best tech? You know what I mean? So dollars also equate to quality and dedication as well. So it's always important that you see an equitable deal for all parties involved.
And I want to share a quick story around partnering as well, right? And you guys are going to hear some more at the 4 o'clock hour. We recognized that we wanted to diversify the industry, but we weren't the best at doing it because you need to be agile, you need to be nimble, and you need to be very intentional. Big corporations are slow to move sometimes, right? They have bureaucracy, they have entrenchment. So we partnered with Dia Sims and Aaron Harris. You'll hear about Pronghorn at 4 o'clock. But that partnership was intentional, and it creates a sort of an incubator, if you will, where it doesn't have the bureaucracy of the large organization. Can you talk to the audience about, some advice if you're a small company? Is that a value proposition you can sell? I can do things quicker. I can move in much more agile ways than you can.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the challenge when you get into the whole bureaucracy within the organization is the fact of, when you're dealing with small businesses, also too is payment terms. It's like a lot of different factors that come into place, right? We need to make sure that when we're looking at small businesses, we're not looking at the same scale we're looking at every other corporation, right? I know this is a talk track for, years, and it still continues with payment terms. It's like we can't expect small businesses to float dollars at the same scale as others, right? So, we need to make sure that when we're evaluating the partnerships and evaluating small businesses, that it's just not at the same, the same lens that we do everyone else, and it's fair in that space.
And Brooke, I want to ask you a question around partnerships, because you have some interesting partnerships that you guys are doing around connecting different segments of the economy. Can you talk briefly about that?
Yeah, I think starting with talent, right? Usually talent, they don't have the biggest resources, but they have currency with their audiences. And so to show that value proposition to major corporations or brands that are putting billions of dollars in marketing, it takes really positioning and showing the value of the story of that individual and the power of their following. So what I like to do is really put a value on the audience. So to me, that has a lot of positioning.
Yeah. And you guys are connecting the work that you're doing right now. You're connecting technology and music, right? Which wouldn't have had a natural, integration. But you're doing that also with AI. Can you talk briefly about taking all these various sectors and creating scale and partnerships around that?
Yeah. So we have an AI tool that allows artists, their music, to be connected to a creative brief. So if you've seen a traditional creative brief, typically what brings that story to life is the music. And in my history of being on the client side, that's also what breaks the budget, right? So you have this beautiful spot that you've developed, and then it's time to license the music, and that completely blows your budget. It's $500K to $1 million, and especially if you're thinking about smaller and budding brands, they don't have that kind of funding to bring that to life. And so that's the importance of working with emerging talent. And so the AI tools that we have allow us to put that value prop on that artist, on that track, and on their following.
Love it. Then, with any insights on that, on taking various segments that are not traditionally linked, but creating a partnerships to create scale?
I mean, we're launching, this week we launched our first party data platform with 85 million travelers that we put together. Now, we've been investing in this since we launched the company and collecting this data. And people used to say to me, why are you spending the money on that? Because it wasn't generating anything. But I saw the value in the audience. And this audience is so all over the place. And we gathered them all together. By aggregating it together and having 85 million travelers, we now have them at home, mobile, social. So we can talk to them for every day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365. We built a platform that now lets us get in the room to talk to the Omnicoms, to the big boys, and actually sit at the table with our own proposition, and then we can target who we want to go. We want to talk to black people. We want to talk to Hispanic people. We can talk directly to them with creative that matches the platform. So what we put on TV may not be what we do on mobile. We may not do what we do on social. And the content we may focus on is going to be different for everyone. So we've been, our secret sauce is being able to go and make moves before people figure it out, and then bring back that value to our partners. And we've done that. We also use our culture. Nobody, we talk about it, but our black culture drives what's pop culture. So we pick a lot of content to help drive put our culture forward, and then that drives everybody to want to be around the content. So we've been focused on that, and that's what's really helped us grow.
Yeah. Love that focus. So guys, we're going to wrap. We're going to give Adrian and the platform a bit more time. They lost some time earlier to the wind and weather, so we're going to wrap this discussion a bit earlier than we expected. But let's have some closing thoughts, because I want this to be a sort of a teachable moment for our folks here. So, Donovan, scale and partnerships, parting words. You know, what should the audience take away as they go off in their rest of the day?
Scale and partnerships, networking, the power of networking. You're in a perfect setting right now to create meaningful and intentional relationships. Make sure you follow up. Make sure you understand what you're trying to pitch, right? And be open to feedback. And don't get demotivated, right? Make sure that you stay curious and stay ambitious, right? No one on this stage has made it to where they are today without failures, right? Like, so just use that as moments.
Yeah, Instagram isn't real. You don't just wake up and all of a sudden you're successful. So let's get that one out the way. And I'll leave it as simple as this: your network is your net worth. And I really treat people like how valuable they really are, and make sure that that's what you do, because it's extremely important, because you're going to need them one day. So make sure, treat everybody that same value in what they really are worth.
Yeah, I would say, as I think about the power of scale and partnerships, what I would like everyone to take away today is just being true to who you are, knowing your story, knowing the value that you bring. And there's so many tools out there. Like, we use AI to show our value, but I think using the right tools, really kind of understanding how you differentiate from everyone else that's out there is what really helps from a partnership standpoint.
Got it. No, I love that, guys. So in my parting words is that, you know, partnerships for me means, look, I can do something by myself and get $100 of the 100, or I can partner and get, you know, 5,000 of 10,000, right? Because I've now introduced a partner and scale. And I think too many times we try to do things ourselves. We're not recognizing that there's power in numbers. So I want to thank each one of you for sharing your thoughts and ideas and supporting this platform. Thank Adrian as well for creating this space. I'm eternally grateful for what she's done here. So, crowd, give it up to these guys and enjoy the rest of the day.